Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our Marketing Monday special event. This is April Cox here with you from Self Publishing Made Simple, and I have a special guest speaker today. And the topic is Beyond the Book, building a personal brand that attracts readers, agents, and opportunities. And my friend Melanie Johnson from Elite Online Publishing is someone who has been here before, is someone I lean on when it comes to branding and marketing. She is an expert in that field. So I'm very happy to have her come forward and talk to us about this important topic. And if you're just joining me now, go on into the chat and tell us what you're doing for author branding while I bring our speaker forward here. All right. So why don't you give us the full introduction of your background, Melanie, before you go ahead and jump in. And if you need me to share any slides, just let me know.
Okay. So my background is TV. I started as a news anchor way back when, and before that I was Miss Michigan. So that was kind of my start into media. And then my former husband and I got a license he got a license for a TV station in Houston. So together we built a TV station here in Houston, Texas, when TV actually meant something. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. In my opinion, TV is really dead. Radio is dead. Everything is on the internet. You can kind of even see that with the election, that all the push was through podcast and social media and online entertainment. So, but my background was that. So, developed TV shows, morning shows, anchored, sold advertising, marketed the TV station. So, really had a great experience learning media from the ground up from that way. And then when I stopped doing that, I really wanted to learn about digital media. Everyone said, "Well, Melanie, why don't you stay in television?" I had gotten divorced, and I said, "I just think TV is dying." And that was in 2008. So, it's taken a long, slow death to get there. And in the meantime, I was always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit starting those TV stations. So I had two houses that my husband put into foreclosure because of bankruptcy, and no one knew what Airbnb was at the time. But I turned them into rentals. VRBO had just come out, and I made six figures renting those houses, and that's how I survived his bankruptcy and all of that in the meantime. So I've been an entrepreneur, done some real estate development, still do some of that, and fell into publishing. And I've loved it. I've been doing it for 10 years. And I'm with Jen Foster, who's out in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we were both single moms. And this little side hustle event turned into our main business. And we're proud to say we've done it for 10 years, and we've made all of our authors bestsellers. And now we do book awards for authors, and we do full media and marketing for authors as well. So that's a little bit about my background.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us about the topic, and feel free to just take the baton from here, and I will let you drive the session for today.
All right. Well, let's get started. All right. So I'm going to throw my glasses on here real quick. So I see some people talking about brand colors, website, and all of that sort of thing. So let's dive into what I think a brand is. So first of all, I think people get confused. Like people say, especially authors, should I be promoting my book or should I be promoting my brand, my personal brand? And, we have struggled with this with our company. Like, do we promote just the company? Should we be promoting us? One thing I want to tell you is you should always promote your personal brand. So I love this little story. Traditional publishers never promote the author. They always promote the book, because an author can jump ship and go somewhere else to another publishing house for more money. So they don't want to promote the author, because then the author is going to be more popular. Someone else might get them, or they're going to ask for more money. So you want to keep in mind, you want to grow your personal brand. Nobody can ever take that away from you. You will always have it. And if you shift and use it for another business, another job, another endeavor, entrepreneurial endeavor, you will always have that brand and that following. It's going to stay with you all the time. And I think the important part about your brand is storytelling. So remember to tell your authentic story. People want to know who you are and your background and how that relates to being an author. Like I just kind of told you my backstory, and people are like, oh man, Melanie, you just seem like you've had this wonderful, perfect life. But no, I've had a lot of ups and downs and pitfalls and things that happen in it. And then you become more relatable because no one's had this even keel thing. They want to know your journey, even if it's just your author journey about how you wrote the book. Maybe you struggled. Oh my gosh, I started my book 3 years ago and I'm still not done. And I'm trying to get it done. And then I finally got it done. They want to know that journey that you're going through. And, sometimes it's scary, right? To tell your own personal story and to say things that you failed, or maybe you published a book and it didn't do anything and you're embarrassed, but that's okay because we've all done things that haven't worked and failed. And I'm really an advocate. I was just listening to Tony Robbins today, and he reminded me again, every challenge is an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity, and to course correct and make it better next time. I think one of the big things. Oh, you have a
I'm
question?
sorry. Yeah, I just saw a comment from Jack. He says, I don't have experience with branding, so I have no cohesive thoughts on what it is. So I'm wondering, do we need to take a step back and just talk about what branding is?
Yeah, so I would say I didn't look up the exact definition, but I'll give you like my definition of it. So branding can be overall your look, feel, story, who you are, and your culture. Like when you look at it, is my brand, I'll give you a description of a part of my personal brand. My personal brand is inspirational, motivational, fun, friendly, and very optimistic. That's my personal brand, right? Now, that's who I am and the story I want to tell. So every time I communicate with people, I want to have that tone of voice because that's who I am inside. Your personal brand is also your values and your beliefs, right? So you're not going to say, hey, I believe that everyone should, I don't know, throw, I don't know, mud on your face every day for a great facial if that's not your thing, right? Or, different things, or feed your kids candy every day if you're really a healthy person. So you want to communicate your personal values and beliefs as part of your brand, right? So that's staying on brand. The other part of your brand, and we discuss this with book covers, when we create book covers for our authors, we talk about creating a book cover that's on brand for you. And that means if you already have a website or a company or you've started something and the brand colors are blue and red, then we're not going to make your book cover purple and gold because it's not the same representative of your brand. Everything kind of needs to go together. Think of it kind of like when you see those beautiful pictures on Pinterest of people decorating their house, there's a palette that goes through the whole house, right? It's usually not kind of all over the place. There's something from each room that carries the other room into it. So that's the same thing for your personal brand. So the colors that you use on your website would also be the same colors that you'd use for your book, you'd use for your Instagram and all your social media. Does that make sense?
Right? Because people start to see the visual identity. I heard somebody say once that your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not around. Have you ever heard that? So I
That's a
guess
good
you
one.
want them to be saying all those same things. I
Right.
also wonder too about, as part of your personal brand, I would assume you want to have authority about your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
You want to also have, like, if you've got a series, would, I think of branding as, and I could be wrong, so that's why I'm asking this, as like a cohesive look to your series and your books so that people immediately
Yes.
know it's associated with you and your brand.
Right, that they can see that. And I love you brought up the authority and expertise of it. So part of your brand, especially we're talking like nonfiction authors here, is that you are that expert at that certain thing. Like Gary Vee, he's a great marketer, been around forever. And his brand, like he has great marketing. He is the brand of social media. He is the brand of let's go to garage sales and find deals and do that. He's like how to make entrepreneurs. So he has the different nuances of his brand. So it doesn't have to just be one dimensional because none of us are just one dimensional. You can incorporate multi dimensions of your personality that you're in there. And then you have to decide how much personal is going in there. Do you want to show all your personal life or just a glimpse of your personal life, or maybe none of it at all, but they still, people want to get to know you. So they need to see something of what you're doing and who you are a little bit for your personal brand, a good mixture of that. Okay. But, you can still keep your personal life private. You don't have to share every little thing that's out there. The other thing I think is really important. Do you have any other questions about what brand is before I move on?
Yeah, so I'm seeing Jack again. It says, I'm most fascinated with the story aspect of it. Can you talk more about what do you mean by story?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this. It's really your personal story, right? That's what I mean by story. So your personal brand is your personal story. So could be stories from your childhood, stories of your writing a book, all the different things that you went through. The little capsule that you got of me, you got a quick little stories, because I've always tried to make it tiny, was of my career path, right? And then a little bit that I had a divorce and moving on, and my entrepreneurial journey. So that was part of my personal story. And then, I have stories of being a single mom, and overcoming divorce and bankruptcy. I've got those types of stories, right? I've got stories of taking care of my mom and dad for the last years of their life. So you have different dimensions of your personal story. And then I think one of the keys is, how can you relate those stories into your business? So you may take something about that, like, I could talk about the stories of taking care of my mom and dad, and it really made me appreciate things and know that life is short, right? And the next phase of life that I'm in, I want to live it to its fullest. You hit a certain age and you're like, oh, wow, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
I
now
love how
my
you weave
parents,
that in. Yes.
right? So it's like,
Mhm.
if you can relate your story into the expertise that you're trying to get across, that's the cross pollination of those stories. It's nice to tell a story just for no reason, but it's way, way better if you can tell a story and it has a purpose and a learning moment in it that incorporates to what your expertise is.
Yeah, and Janet's asking, with regard to your personal story, what is enough or too much to tell about yourself? How do you know where to draw that line?
And I think that's, you have to draw your own line for that,
Hmm.
right? You have to say where you're comfortable and uncomfortable. And then another great way is to, instead of just, all right, I'm going to take a chance and share it with the universe, maybe send it to a couple friends. What do you think about this? Is this too much? Is it not enough? Would you want to know more? And it's kind of like what we do with books. You send it to beta readers. So why not send it to a few people that you can get their opinion on it before you go shoving everything out to the universe, and then feel a little bit more confident, would be my advice.
Hmm. I think when I see that Debbie Sarlus has joined us, and her branding story is just very incredible, of growing up having trouble with literacy and not being able to read, to now becoming a best-selling published author. Like, there's a great story there about understanding those challenges and really rising to the occasion and letting other kids know that they can do it too, kids and adults, right? So
So
those
think
kinds of
of
things
that.
are just so powerful.
And now, when you say that, that makes me think. So I'm kind of jumping ahead, but if she told bits and pieces of that story, like in an email sequence, in a social media post sequence, right?
Mhm.
In a video sequence of her story that she could send out, that people would be like, oh, wow, I wonder what happened next to her, right? They're
Right.
engaged. So people,
Embrace the challenges, embrace the
mhm,
story and the triumphs that came from it. And sometimes the one other thing I've heard someone else tell me is that sometimes our own narrative in our brain may lean
mhm,
towards the negative, but
yeah,
we're reclaiming that narrative and making it feed into a story that we want to portray as our brand. I'm not saying be false,
mhm,
but we can get down on ourselves. I failed at this, I failed at that. My first business went bankrupt. Those kinds of things don't have to be all negatives. They can be the things that helped you learn and grow into who you are. And if they're portrayed
right.
correctly, I think it can make a big difference.
Yeah, and if you always look at what did I learn, if you it gives you self-reflection. Okay, this didn't go well. What did I learn from this that I can share with someone else. And really, it's about getting your readers to know who you are and
Mhm.
start to be having a relationship with you, and other people starting, getting more followers and people because they're getting to know you. And how
Mhm.
many times have you gotten an email or a social media post and you're like, oh, I should forward this to so and so, they would like this, right?
Mhm.
Or let me even save this for later to send to someone because I want to revisit this. I mean, I do that all the time. I think my kids are the number one targets of that. They're so tired of me sending things. This is a great little story. You should listen to this. You might get something out of that. So that's the point of doing that and being able to share that context. And you don't want to always be buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, right? Or just excerpts of my book. You want to have that story behind the book and the process of everything.
I had another question here from Barbara. She says, when you're doing book readings with young children, what do you suggest telling them as part of your personal brand?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think you want to I think for there, you'd have to pick something, maybe a childhood story or what inspired you to write your children's book. That's the
Mm.
advice I would give. So, like, you're ready to tell them the story, and before you read it to them, I just want to tell you what inspired me to write this book when I was a kid. This
Mhm.
happened to me and blah blah blah, and I remembered that all these years later, and I knew I wanted to write a story about this, and it took me a long time to do it, but you could write a book even before that. Look at, I did it, but you could do it sooner. That type of inspirational thing. Or again, I'm inspirational, right? But to tell a story of how that book came about and inspire those kids maybe to write their own children's book.
Yeah, and Barbara, I know with you, you've written your book for your grandson. So it could even be, what about him inspired this book and things like
Mhm.
that. I know that when I interviewed Daniel Jude Miller, he talked about he showed pictures of himself as a younger child, and he talked about being at the back of the room scribbling and doodling on his pad, always getting in trouble, and then he turned into an author illustrator, right? So those kind of things I think kids would identify with, but not everything is child friendly, so you have to figure that out. And I guess that goes to show that a brand can be slightly modified for the audience that you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to, and if you have a fiction, do we have any fiction book authors here too today, April, or that mostly
Good
nonfiction had children?
question. Let's If you have a
I see
fiction
one,
book. Oh yeah,
Phyllis.
so we have some fantasy writer, and we've got some nonfiction folks here as well as children's book authors.
Okay, well, I want to touch
Kelly
on,
says fiction, yes.
okay, we've done mostly nonfiction. I just want to touch on fiction a little bit for your personal brand too. So, still the same thing. I would incorporate what inspired you, what events inspired you to write the book, why you wrote the book, a little bit of your backstory. That's all part of your personal brand.
Mhm. Yes, that's great.
All right,
Fiction and creative fiction, Leslie says.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can't even be, you can even dive deeper of what inspired you for each character. Like,
Hmm.
this character reminded me of my high school girlfriend. And it was inspired by her and the relationship I had, and blah, blah, blah. And you're telling that story. I remember I went to go see John Denver in concert years ago. And I just loved, because he was a singer songwriter. And he told the story behind each song that he wrote. Oh, this is the song when I first met my wife. This is the song when we broke up. This is the song. And, he didn't just say that sentence, he gave us a little bit of the backstory. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have had no idea that
Right.
that's where that song came from. So it gives you new insight. So I really think that works for the fiction books and the fantasy books that you're writing
Hmm.
as well.
It's a way to connect with your audience too, because
Mhm.
once they know the things in your heart or behind the stories that you write, I think they're much more apt to follow you and become a fan versus, just a have read one book and then move on.
And posting on social media sometimes can seem so daunting. So this gives you a whole nother slew of content that you can make about your backstory and your personal brand in there. Are we ready to move on to the
Yeah,
next thing?
yeah, we've got the questions are coming up about social media, but I assume you're going to
Yep.
cover some of
Yep.
that.
I'm
So we'll
jumping into
wait for
that.
that. Yes, go ahead.
Yep.
Feel free to move on.
Okay, I'll jump into social media next and then we'll do websites after that. So, social media, you've got to decide where your people are, especially if you're overwhelmed and you're a solopreneur or authorpreneur, as April says, which is like a solo authorpreneur and you don't have a team. So, to keep it simple, and if social media intimidates you a little bit, I would pick one platform that you think your authors are on, right? Nonfiction type business books, I would say LinkedIn would be your best bet. Instagram, I would say for fiction books or nonfiction books there. Facebook tends to have a little bit older audience. So if your audience is a little bit older, I would target more Facebook. And Facebook and LinkedIn are kind of cool because if you post on one, it'll post on the other automatically. So you get a twofer with that. All right. The other thing I'm finding is TikTok. We don't know how long it's going to stay or if it's going to stay, but they have book talk there. And I've been seeing authors go on there and say, hey, this is my book, or they've gotten other people talking about their book on there to buy their book. And they, with book talk, I think that's something to explore if you're an adventurer. And then there's also X that you can do. I don't find that as robust for authors as much. We post there for our company. And of course, if you're more advanced, I'd say post everywhere. Um, and then how often should you post? Well, I'm of the mindset you should post 3 times a day, but my team just like they're like, what do you want? How much? Because I used to say 3 to 5 times a week. So if you're just starting out, 3 to 5 times a week is a good way to start. And then as you get more and more advanced, I would do, as almost every, if you can do every day or several times a day. And I'm going to give you a few AI tools. I don't know if any of you are into AI. I'm
Oh,
all
yes.
about AI these
I'm
days.
all about AI too.
So Oasis is a great, great tool. You can put your book content in there, and then it will spit out an article, a LinkedIn article, Twitter feeds, a blog post, social media post. I mean, it just gives you, and it does it all at once. So it's like a menu, and you say, oh, yeah, I want all these different things. You click what you want, you put it in there, and it creates all of these things at one time. It's crazy. So that is really a great way to get, and it can be I always say use it as your first draft partner. It's not going to be perfect, but it does give you tons and tons of ideas and tons of content that you can use. So I would say, again, that's a really easy tool. It's Oasis .ai, I believe. And it's free. I think the one is free, and then if you want the advanced, it's like $20 a month to do more, to add more things in there.
One of the
So
things too, I think people need to understand is that that doesn't mean you have to book time every single day to do social media. You can
correct.
kind of book an hour or so to do a bunch of things using AI. You can make it much quicker to produce, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can schedule things so that they schedule out. And that way, with
Yeah.
just a small investment of time, you've got your 3 to 5, whatever that's going to be for the
That's what
week.
we do. We call it bulk creating. So we'll go into Canva. I don't know if any of you are similar with Canva, and we'll create, like, let's say we'll do ask ChatGPT to pull out the top quotes from our book, or even Oasis. Give me all the like 50 quotes from my book. And then we'll put them into Canva. We'll create a template there. And then once you create the template, you say hit bulk create, and it puts the different quotes in each graphic. And then you have 50 graphics with quotes from your book. And then you can use a source called Later. We use Later, and it schedules it out. So you can say, I want this, you connect it to your social media, and then you can schedule it for, I want one every day, every other day, however many times you want to do it.
Yeah, lots of love for Canva, I'm seeing. I
Yep.
agree. It's awesome, and it's getting to do a lot more too. We
It
have
really
a
is.
class, a drop-in session, Canva for authors, and it's been one of our most popular events that people have been coming to every week. So
Oh,
if
I
you've
bet.
missed out on that, come and join us on Thursdays. Uh, Denise says, what about having your own YouTube channel? Is that good for branding? I would say from my perspective, absolutely. It's where a lot of people find me and what I do.
Yeah, I think YouTube is amazing. I mean, Google owns YouTube, right? So it kind of ties in when you have your website with, and then they're finding you on search there, and then it ties into the videos. And absolutely, I think YouTube's amazing. And you should have your videos there. And then, so think about this: you can take your videos and drop them into Oasis, and Oasis can transcribe them and turn them into all these smaller pieces of content for you.
Absolutely fantastic. Christy says, for social media, would you start a new account? For example, I have an Instagram account already. Should I start a new one just as my author brand and try to start creating the brand, or use my current account? So I think that must mean her personal account, to
Right.
work on and build a brand from that.
I always say, Bill, I prefer using having one account. It's just easier to find you. It's not confusing. You already have followers there. Otherwise, you're starting from scratch, asking for people to join. So it's a little bit longer, harder road. We've done it both ways, but I truly believe that it should just be your personal brand, and every book and everything that you create is on your personal Instagram, because you may have another book. What do and you might do a course. You might do, I don't know, you might do swag. So on a totally different thing. So I would house them all to one place, whether that's you make a separate one and start over, or it's your personal, but just have one.
Right. Okay. That's it for social media questions. If anybody has anything, feel free to post question below here.
Another tip we're using for YouTube is we're doing long form
Mhm.
video there, and then cutting it into clips.
Yeah, what are you using? I've got Opus Clip I'm using, and it does a good job of generating dozens of short form videos for me.
Yes, we used Opus a lot, and we just switched over to Descript because
Yep.
we found that the quality was a little better. The
Oh,
videos
okay. Well,
didn't get as
yeah.
compressed.
Mhm.
We do it also with our podcast, so we'll record our podcast and then move it to Descript, and then Descript does the editing from there. But
Okay.
I love Opus too. So either one, whatever is easier for you to do. Um,
Mhm. I use Descript for my video editing, and they just recently came out with with clips, so I hadn't
yes,
tried it yet. So that'll be a good prompt for me to give it a try. Maybe I'll do that with this video.
yeah, give it a try and see what
Yeah,
happens with that.
yeah.
So, yeah, those are some other tips I think, because sometimes it's hard to find the time, and then you're thinking, I got to make all these little short videos. And if you just have a conversation and write out, like, I always love if someone writes questions out. Like I tell my team, give me, instead of just telling me the topic, give me a series of questions, and then I can go down. Because April, I love doing these things with April, because April just asked me more questions, and then it's easy just to answer them. So then you can even say, oh, people might be wondering about how I created this character, or how I got into what I'm doing for your expertise for a nonfiction book.
Hmm.
So,
Nice.
all right, let's dive into websites. Okay, how many of you actually have a website?
I hope everybody does, or at least is ready to do one. And I'm forever tweaking mine.
And if you need help, you don't have one, we do websites for authors, but you should, like April said, I hope everyone says they have one.
Yeah, even a simple one. Yeah, it looks like we've got most people either have it or are working on it. It's in progress, which is good.
That's good. Okay, let's dive in and give you some tips on there. So, first off, I know you're going to put that about you section on there and about your book, and you're going to put a section to buy your book, which most people do. But I also want you to have a section for bulk buying your book, where people can inquire to buy 50, 100, 500, 1,000. Wouldn't it be nice to get an order of 1,000 books or 10,000 books, right? And then you can offer discounts. So you can put either, we've done it a couple ways, where either they can inquire for bulk buying, or you actually put a form of with the quantity that they want and a discount that they get, because you're going to buy them. You're all self-publishing, so you're going to get them all at the author wholesale price is what I suggest. So that's really important. Have that where they know they can buy a bunch of books at one time, because they might want to give it to their whole office or for a group, or maybe they're having a party and they want to order 20 books and they could get it from a discount from you. Then the other thing, if any of you are speakers, you should also have a page for your speaking page. And ours are pretty robust. So you want to be able to say, the venue that it's at, how about how many people, the location, of course, the date, equipment that they have, will they have equipment for a slideshow, things like that. So things that are pertinent, so they can just fill out something right there and send it to you to speak right from your website. Another important thing to have.
Yep,
And a
and
lot of
that can
people
also
forget that.
translate for our children's book authors to school visits. Things like
Yes.
that. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Where they can book you right there. You can have a calendar and they can give you the information. I think that's really important to make sure that you have that. So they're booking you for for your both books, and events that you have going on, media that you've done that you can put there. Of course, any blog posts that you're writing should go there because that helps with the SEO as well.
Okay, Jennifer says she has wondering if you do consulting for social media marketing. She has a complicated question and wants to follow up with you.
Yes, we do. We charge $200 an hour for consulting
Okay.
for April's group. She gets a special price.
Special pricing.
Yeah.
That's good. Newsletter on the blog or blog or on the website?
Yes, you should have your blog on your website.
Okay. And do
So
you
is it one or the other?
Pardon me?
Am I there? I was wondering if there's a difference, like newsletter or blog. Is there one or the other? There is a difference between blog and newsletter?
Yes. So the newsletter are things that are happening and coming out, and the blog is like information and educating people. Does that make sense? Like the blogs we write about are, how to publish your book, how to become a bestseller, tips and tricks in the publishing industry and writing industry and things like that. Like why you should have an audiobook, that type of thing for our blogs. And then our newsletter, it informs people about our podcast coming out. It'll put a blog post, the current blog post in there, book launches that we're having, places that I'm speaking, things like that will go in our newsletter. And then people would sign up for your newsletter and then they would get it in their inbox. Did that make sense?
Yes, it's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Does everyone know the difference between a landing page and a website? No, I'm happy to go through that. So a landing page is something you keep scrolling and scrolling down on. So even when you hit a tab on the top, it'll scroll further down on the landing page. It's one page. Okay. And then a website actually has different links and different sites within the website. So like when you do a 5-page website, it's going to have whole different places that it's going versus all on the same page. That's kind of the difference. And a 5-page website is more robust and has more SEO.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This is the thing that I find out about email marketing. I would say, hate to say this, but probably 80% of our authors do not have a way to send out mass emails. They don't have a CRM. And I never remember what CRM stands for. I just know that it makes your emails go out automatically. You write the email and it puts everybody's individual name in there and it goes out all at once.
Yes.
So I don't know if any of you have that, but you need to have one. You can get MailChimp, Constant Contact. We use Cultivating Sales for ourselves. We set them up for our authors all the time because about 80% of them don't have that. And it's really important when you're launching your book that you can send out to your entire list of emails, whether it's 50 or it's 50,000, that you can send them out all at one time. You don't want to have to individually copy and paste and do 50 emails or however many's on your list individually and send them out. And you never want to put everybody's name all together in an email, where you can see all these people in there and you've just given away everybody's email address in that thing. So in the who is going to. So remember to get a CRM. Does everyone have a CRM?
So Kelly says she's using MailerLite. I do a lot through Wix, but MailerLite's my kind of second that I would probably move to if I needed to. Yeah. Wix is awesome. MailerLite, Phyllis says.
Good.
And I think some people that are just getting started, they don't even really have they're not asking for email addresses and they're not quite feeling comfortable enough to ask. So can you talk about the importance of building that email list, Melanie?
Yes, it's so important. So I've had people who have been taken down on YouTube. I've had people that were taken down on Instagram, and then they lost all their followers, right? It's just gone, vanished, just like that, poof. And you don't even know the reason. Sometimes they just take it down. So you want to really have your email list. That will never go away. If you have all those contacts, then you can always communicate with them no matter what the powers that be are decide to have you on there or not have you on there. So that's why it's important that you should have your own list and keep growing it. And if you're saying, well, how do I grow my list? Well, one great way is on the website that you're going to have that you have an opt-in on it. So you have something that is a high perceived value that people coming there would want to get, that they were willing to give their name and email for. Right. I know on retail sites, I get it all the time. They're going to give me 10% off, 20% off if I give them my name and email. And then I give it to them and then I opt out afterwards, right? Because you just wanted the discount. But it's important to grow that, right? And then I want to talk about what you should do with your email list, because a lot of you will use it for your book launch and then you never talk to these people again. So you need to have a strategy and a campaign that's going on all the time. I call it a campaign. It's really like a conversation. So you talked about the newsletter. So that's one thing you can develop and send to your your list all the time on a weekly basis or monthly basis, however often you want to do it. But you need to create campaigns. And I love using ChatGPT for this as well. You can say, hey, I want to write an email campaign to the people that I have. This is my book. This is some of my personal story. Give me some topics that I should write my emails about. And then they can give you a bunch of topics and you can pick from there. Pick the ones that you like. And then say, okay, I like these top 10 topics. Now, can you create an email series of 3 emails to go with each of those? And again, it's just a first draft, right? It's going to give you your own first draft to give you some ideas and go from there and add content and change it and edit it. But you need to be ideally, I shouldn't say you need to be, you should ideally be communicating with your list at least once a week, that you're sending them an email and giving them some kind of information.
And going back also to the lead magnet, that should also, I assume, tie into your brand. Like it should reinforce your brand and attract people. I've heard people say it's attraction marketing. So it's things that maybe your target audience is struggling with, and you have a solution, something that's important, that is also something that you're passionate about as well.
Right. So let's say we did a pastor's book, right? And so his opt-in was his top 10 favorite scriptures that he uses all the time, right? And you're like, oh, I wonder what those are. So people wanted his favorite list. So it's coming up with something that ties into your book, something that ties into your brand that you're an expertise on, that people would want to get. Really good point, April.
Okay, I don't see any questions on website. Actually, I have one.
Okay.
When you're helping to set up a website for your authors, what about SEO? How does that factor in? And how much time should you put into SEO? And even, advertising with Google to drive people to your site, things like that.
Yeah, I say hire experts for SEO. I mean, you can try and figure it out, but if you're not that kind of person, I would hire someone to do the SEO. We have people on our team that's all they do. That's their expertise. Jen, who's developed websites for years, she's even like, I'm doing so much publishing, all the SEO stuff. We're getting somebody else to do this stuff. So we have an SEO expert that comes on, and that's what I would say is invest in that. We've tried Google Ads just recently, and I think we didn't have great luck with those Google ads, but I think you have to really give it a lot more time, and you have to monkey around with ads if you're going to do ads to drive in there. I know a lot of companies and a lot of individuals do well with ads, but I think it's just like you have to either hire a professional, and it's just like book publishers and editors and different people and coaches. You don't know if they're all the same quality. So it's finding a high quality person who's had really great results that can do it for you.
Right. And Jack, sorry about that. He's asking, what is SEO? So search engine optimization. So it
Mhm.
really means how can you make sure that your site is found when people search for the keywords that are important for you and your book?
Yeah. And, let's talk about that for your personal brand a little bit.
Mm,
So, when someone searches your name, what comes up on search? It's interesting if you all go to like an incognito on your computer. If you don't know how to do that, you go to those three dots over there on the top right, and you click on it and it'll say incognito. And if you type in your name, you'll see what comes up. So you'll notice Amazon is really prolific in SEO. That's what I tell authors, if they're considering writing a book that's in someone who's in business. I'm like, well, you're going to get free SEO from Amazon forever because of your book. And if you
mm,
have an Amazon author page, they're going to have SEO for that too. It's going to rank. Both of those things are going to rank, and they usually rank on the first page of search for you. Also, Instagram is really high. That also usually comes up on the top list. So does LinkedIn. LinkedIn is usually the first one. So that's why it's really important to have a great LinkedIn profile, to have a banner behind your picture there, have a great title. The banner should say who you are, like what you do. So it should be branded with, the content of who you are, and then your details underneath under your name. So because LinkedIn shows up on that first page all the time. So that's why it is important to have social media, and it is important to have a website, because that's how people are going to find you and your book.
nice. Um, so Kelly's saying, I'm currently working on my next book's launch. Any tips, highlights, marketing plan ideas? So we can go through that, I think, as after we're finished with some of the branding discussions, because a book launch is kind of an extension of your brand, isn't it, Melanie?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're launching a product from your brand. Think about like McDonald's is bringing out like the McRib sandwich is coming back. So it's a product of McDonald's. McDonald's is the brand, and the sandwich is the product, same as you are the brand and the book is the product. And if it's new and you don't really have a personal brand, you're really kind of launching both at the same time.
Mm,
So, and when you start out, like if you don't have a personal brand at all, you haven't been doing anything, your book is going to be the cornerstone of that brand. So I would focus on the launch, get all your social media set up, right? And then the first thing that's going to come out is everything about your book and launching your book and some of your backstory on that. That's how I would start the whole thing if you're new.
right. Trent is reminding us too that SEO also includes visibility for assets like your blog, your YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel, etc.
Yeah.
So for SEO considerations, I think that's a great idea. Um,
Yeah,
Kelly
that's why I
says
tell
she's,
people to be everywhere. If you
yeah,
can be
yeah.
everywhere and you have the bandwidth, be
Mhm.
everywhere. And I will tell you, someone told us that they were comparing us to another publisher, and they weren't looking at our website. They looked at our Instagram. They said,
Oh,
we looked at the other people's Instagram. We thought it was terrible. And we looked at yours and it looked great. So we wanted to contact you. They didn't even look at our website. So I told our team that our Instagram is like our new website. It's got to have a lot of content in there.
right. So Kelly says she's actually expanding or extending her brand because um, her new book launch is launching for an older audience where she's previously done children's books. So could you
Ah.
comment on, kind of pivoting? And if you're doing multiple genres, what would you do with a brand story there?
Yeah, so now you've got a whole new audience, right? A part of it is with a children's book, you probably have grandparents that might buy children's books for their children, right? So there is a little bit of crossover there. Um, and you're just going to have to start targeting different content for them. So bringing that in, so they're showing multiple levels of the children's book and I don't know what your new book is about. What is your new book about?
Kelly, did you want to take yourself off of mute? Oh, she says Lilith Fletcher, who has always felt like an outsider, accidentally enters a hidden world on the evening of her 12th birthday. So a chapter book. um,
Okay.
uncovering secrets of
it's
her
actually a
past.
novel.
Oh, it is. It's novel. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it almost sounds
it's-
like a youth novel, right? Like it's not a
Yeah.
YA.
for at first
It's
I
an
thought you were talking about senior citizens. So I'm like, okay, well,
it's an upper middle grade one. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like extending because I used to do lots of activity books and picture books. So now it's a little bit older.
yeah, I think you're still in that same audience, even though you've got the younger books,
Right.
you're still children. So I think that's still part of your brand. I think you're good.
Yeah, the other thing that
Thank
I've learned too with targeting with your main character, if you're looking to get the upper grade levels, then you may want to age up that character because a 12, typically it's like 10-year-olds that would be wanting to read about a 12-year-old, not 16
Yeah.
or 14-year-olds. So
Yeah.
just something to think about.
And I don't know what your website looks like, if it's very like if it looks like for toddlers, you know what I mean? And now you're going for a 10-year-old wouldn't think like the toddler look is as cute, you know what I mean? So you may need to adjust the fonts and the graphics a little bit for something that can skew for both ways, or you're having a different page that is for them and then the fonts are a little bit different because again, a 10 or 12-year-old is going to like something different than a 3 or 4-year-old.
Okay. Melanie, have you found Facebook ads or Instagram ads or boosting your posts to be helpful at all?
Yeah, and I think the right Instagram ads are good. I think the right boost are good. I'm finding that Facebook is doing really good organically on its own. And another trick that has been successful is targeting certain zip codes. Like if you know, like just targeting where you live, like if you know your zip codes and just trying that out in that little small area. Um, and test that out. That's been rather successful. So I think that's kind of interesting is targeting little micro niches of audiences and then testing the metrics on that. And then I was just at a day spa yesterday, and I found them on Instagram and they were saying, yeah, we had one influencer, but it didn't really do anything. And then this other influencer who does all local stuff did a video on us and we've been booked solid. And
Wow.
and he even said, he goes, yeah, TV doesn't work anymore. And I go, yep, I know. I told you TV's
Yeah.
dead. That's what I'm telling you.
Right.
TV is dead. So he said, we didn't know what to do. So that's what they did. And he said, yeah, the majority of our business has come from that Instagram. And he said, then other Instagrammers, she shared it with them and people were sharing the post.
Yeah. Are you finding threads to be something that people should consider? I feel like it's not quite enough saturation there. I don't know. What do you think?
We only have one member on our team that's really into threads. And I would say that it's like you say, it's not as saturated, but it's how do I want to say, like it's you might have a better chance of getting found because there's not as many people doing it, like promoting your book. For us, we're not promoting threads. We're not doing that right now, but I know there's people who are in there that like it. So I guess you just have to decide if that's your audience.
Right. Find out where your target audience is hanging out
Mm-hmm.
and make those the priority.
Right.
Trent says you can have more than one IG profile for different target audiences, like single parents and YA audience for books. That is true. You could have multiple. It just ends up meaning that you have multiple, double the administration and having to maintain those things. So if that's okay, or if you're lucky to have a social media manager that can do things for you, then that might be an option. That's a good option to think about.
Yeah, and that's what I find. Most of our authors are overwhelmed with launching their book, marketing their book, and knowing their book is now a business that they have to promote. Even for them to publish or to promote on one site is overwhelming. We offer social media at our company where we do social media posting for their book for them. And they're so glad. They're like, oh gosh, one less thing I have to do. So unless you're savvy at it, and I remember telling my team, I'm going to go into Canva because I've used Canva in the past, but I hadn't used it in a long time. And I go, I'm going to teach myself how to bulk create. And it took me about 2 hours. and never had done it, right? And then I had about 50 posts that I did, but then I learned, so I know I could just copy and repeat. So it just depends if you have more time than money or money than time, right? If you have more time, then you can figure these things out and make it part of your regular routine. If you don't have the time and you just want someone to take it off your plate and you want to spend your time doing other things, then I would hire somebody.
Right. It's wise advice. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else didn't we touch upon with regard to branding?
See, we talked about social media, websites, email.
What about video? Would you recommend that there's certain types of video that an author kind of records and puts on their website or on YouTube that can kind of reinforce their branding?
Yeah, again, I think that's being authentic, number one, be yourself, and it takes practice. And here, I used to do the news, right? And when it's just me and that camera and I've got to talk, I get nervous. I don't know why. But when I'm here with all of you, it doesn't bother me at all. I can do this all day, but it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do a video all by myself. What are they going to think? What if I mess up? And it's just me. And it just makes me nervous. So you just have to get through that fear and just talk to that camera like it's a person. And the secret is, I found, guess what? You can erase it if you don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
We forget that. We forget that you can take as many takes as you want. And I would say it's great to do video and get used to doing video. Like I said, if you can do a 10-minute rant, a 5-minute rant, a 3-minute rant, and then put it into Opus can make all these different clips about it. So do it on purpose. It's easier to make clips if you make 3 points in your video, or you're saying 3 different things or 5 different things, that you're illustrating. It's easy to make clips out of it. So for me, it's easier to do something longer form and then create all those little clips. So I suggest that that's easier for you to do it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you've not tried Descript, it is a great editing tool. You can just go in and once you upload your video, whatever length it is, it will just show you all the words, and it gives you the ability to remove all of the extraneous ums and ahs and filler words. It will allow you, it even has like AI features to make sure your eyes are always looking straight at the camera, because if you happen to look down and check your notes or something, it fixes that. If you don't like your background, it'll put you can put green screen background. You can overdub things, and record your voice and fix errors. It's just crazy how easy that editing has become. It's not quite as big of an excuse of, hey, technology really has me over a barrel because I can't understand. It's getting really easy. And with all these AI tools coming out, I'm sure it's going to continue to get better and better.
It is. It blows my mind. Every day there's something new. We tried Notebook LM, and I'm going to give you a QR code to our book, The Strategic Writing System. I put the strategic writing system in there, and it created a podcast about the book. Have you seen that? It is, and the podcast is really good. So then you can take
what is the tool that you used?
A Notebook LM. I believe it's a Google tool.
Okay. Notebook LM.
Yeah. If you want, I can play a bit of the podcast for you. It was crazy.
Yeah, maybe we could share that for folks. A couple of other things posted here. Margaret's wondering if adding her books to her professional LinkedIn account would be recommended, even though it's not related to her main profession.
Yes, anywhere you can put your book, put it.
Okay. Jack says, what's a great criteria question you can ask yourself to validate if you're being authentic or not?
Say that again. What's a great question you can ask to validate yourself?
Validate if you're being authentic or not. Ensure that what you're sharing is truly an authentic you.
I think you have to ask yourself a gut question, right? Like, listen back to it or read it back. And is that really me? Does that sound like me? Have your spouse read it, your best friends read it. When you read a book of someone you actually know, or a letter, and you're like, this sounds just like them.
Yes. Yes. That's true. And you know, the whole, what do you suppose people say about you when you're not in the room? I hope that they say that I am generous and I am helpful and that
Mm-hmm.
I help make things easier for them and that we have great meetings and that they feel supported. So that's part of the brand that is self-publishing made simple. So what do you want people to feel, or how do you want people to feel about you, and what do you want them to say about you
Mm-hmm.
and your book, your services, who you are as a person? And then, how can you support that in all of the content that you're creating?
Yep.
Phyllis says, do I record video as horizontal or vertical?
For YouTube, you want horizontal. And for Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, you want vertical.
Yeah. And if you're going through through Descript, you can change it. You can, tweak, turn it one way or the other way, and it will try to do its best of helping you take one recording and make it allow it to be turned vertical if you've done a horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say if you record it horizontal, you can usually it can squeeze in. Just make
Yep.
sure that you're far enough back. And that, but if you're having a vertical recording, it's hard to get that horizontal view.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be good to start with the horizontal.
I'm having a hard time finding the oh, maybe it's going to generate it. This is an audio overview. We'll see if that's it. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, let me share my screen so y'all can get the free gift, and then we'll is that okay? Am I able to share?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so there's the QR code to get the book.
So what book are you sharing with us, Melanie? That's
The
good.
strategic writing system. So this has tons of content on helping you write your book. It has stuff about branding in there. It has stuff about publishing in there. So it's really, I think you'll get a lot of use out of it.
Okay.
And then these slides over here to the left that I just used for my own notes, but I generated all of these with Gamma. So if you hadn't heard with Gamma, it's a great way to create a quick slideshow in seconds. I don't know if you all have the QR code if you need that, but I'll show you. I'll go back to it. But so this, I just created all of these slides. See these slides here?
Yeah.
Literally, I put the outline of what I wanted to talk about. And in about 30 seconds, it created all these slides for me. And then you can edit them. You can add more slides. You can use AI to add more slides. You can change out all the graphics if you want.
Wow. And how do you spell the tool? GAMMA?
Yep, GAMMA.
Okay. And I would love it if you wouldn't mind sending me the QR code. I'd be happy to send things off, or even if it's just a link, I'll be happy to reply and send people the link for those that are not here with us and perhaps don't have the opportunity to grab that.
Sure. Okay,
I've never heard of Gamma. See, you're a wealth of information and knowledge. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that.
Okay, let's see if this is still generating. I thought that we had already generated it, but it's not really here. So it took notes. So I'll show you what this does. I don't know if you can see that. So over here, I put the book inside and it gave me, I got like a briefing here, and then it will do a study guide for me. If I want, it'll do, so it's generating FAQs from the book.
And that's all Gamma?
This is Notebook LM.
Ah, I love it. And it's an AI tool.
Mm-hmm.
Notebook. And is it notebook.lm?
Notebook.lm.google.com. I think is what it is. If you put Notebook LM and search for it, it'll come up.
Yeah. Okay.
And then let's do generating a study guide. So this is a quick way you could generate a study guide from your book.
That's awesome. Is it free or paid? Kelly's asking.
I think both. They have a free version and then you're limited on how many you can do.
Mhm. And does it work for fiction?
I would just put it in there. I'm sure it would.
Mm. And it's like you said, it's not going to be the final product, but it'll get you maybe 70% there, right?
Mhm.
And then you can adjust and move forward from there.
Yep.
That's great.
It's not, I wish it would generate the conversation, but it's not. So, but if you put it in there, it'll create this podcast and it's pretty wild.
That's fantastic. Well, Melanie, we are very glad to have had you here. What can we do to support you in your efforts, and how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you or getting more information?
Sure. You can go to our website, eliteonlinepublishing.com. And if you click that QR code, that will put you into our mailing list. You'll get the book and then you'll get our newsletter and content from us. And of course, we're everywhere. Like I told you to be. We're on YouTube. We have 2 podcasts. We have the Elite Publishing Podcast and Elite Expert Insider Podcast. We have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We're everywhere.
Kelly's asking, will I make this available on YouTube? I will send it over and have my video editor go through it and then post it. So it probably won't be immediately, but I will post a replay link for my mastermind group. And then the edited version will eventually, probably within a week or so, make it over to YouTube. So,
Okay, I think I'm going to share my screen. I think it's done. Let's see if this is what I'm thinking it is. This says audio, but I'm hoping it's the podcast. Let's see.
All right, so you want to go viral, huh?
Sounds like it.
Well, you sent us some super interesting stuff about getting viral on social media, and especially about short form video.
Yeah, definitely some stuff to unpack there.
It seems like you're looking to crack the viral code.
Always a hot topic.
For sure. And we've got 2 very different sources to kind of compare and contrast today.
Should be interesting.
Yeah. So first up, we have a YouTube video by this guy, Nathan Johnson.
Okay.
That's my
Super
son.
high energy video.
Yeah, I've seen a few of his.
So
Yeah,
this
he
is actually
claims that
my
he can get
son.
any account to 100,000 followers in just 30 days.
Wow.
Here, I'm
so it
promoting
has
my
its
son, I
own-
guess.
So it has its own kind of AI voices that are the podcast that have the podcast, and you are part of it. That's different, huh?
What I did is I uploaded was my son. He has a company called Clipper, and he started doing YouTube videos, long form YouTube videos. And so I put 4 of them or 3 of them in there, and I had it made, and it made the podcast from those videos.
Hmm.
And then I had done the same. I thought that was my books. I thought I saw a strategic rating system in there. So, and I had done it with my book, and it blows your mind because it sounds like they're just real and having this normal conversation. And it's a podcast. You're like, that's exactly what I'd want people to say about my book, you know?
Right. How
So,
cool.
very interesting to do that.
Nice. Well, this has been very eye-opening as always, and I'm so glad to have you. We'll have you coming back again soon, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
I know I'll be doing more with your podcast as well. We'll get together and do something special for that. So let's stay in touch. I highly recommend you do join Melanie's mailing list. She shares lots of great information, and grab that freebie. It's a great opportunity for you to get lots of free information on exactly what we've just been talking about.
And you know what? April and I had talked about if you were interested to do like a more deep dive and do like real time creating things with you, webinar
Like a
type
workshop,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. If you're interested in doing that, it was going to be for a very small price. But if you're interested in doing a workshop, put I guess a yes in the comments.
Yeah, it's something we can consider, and maybe we'll put it out there. And oh yeah, so we've got a few people saying yes. What I always love about those kinds of sessions is you can run them a little bit longer, but everybody leaves with something having already been created.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, we've got a lot of yeses here. So I think we're on to something with branding workshop.
Perfect.
So let's follow up, and we'll get that into the newsletter from both sides. Thank you all, and thank you for joining me. Check out the upcoming events. We've got lots of new things coming on, and lots of marketing activities. for these Marketing Monday sessions. So keep coming back. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Great to be here.
you.